One of my deepest desires is to see people experience the fulfillment and growth that comes through healthy relationships. We're wired for relationships, so tune in and join with me as I explore and discuss tools for healthy relationships. Every Monday, 12:15 p.m. on Isaac 19.1 FM.
Good afternoon to you guys once again. Welcome to the program, Healthy Relationships. And with me today, I've got the beautiful Petreece Cuffie, as per usual on a Monday afternoon here for the program, Healthy Relationships. Good afternoon to you, Petreece.
Good afternoon, Tiffany. So I heard you had a birthday? Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
But we get so busy. But I know there's somebody who's always tuned into Isaac 98.1 FM, Alicia Gibson, and she had a birthday. So I want to send a big shout out and thank you so much. She's always liking my posts, always putting little things of encouragement. So Alicia, my dear sister, happy New Year, happy birthday, and happy birthday to you too, Tiffany. Happy New Year, and I pray that even prayers you pray that you can't even remember you prayed, that God will answer even in this new season. Right? So happy birthday to you all, my two sisters.
Blessings. Go right ahead, Petreece. We hand over to you now.
All right, so happy again to be here, and good afternoon to all our viewers, all our listeners. Really happy that you could be joining me today as I continue with those 10 characteristics of healthy marriages. I'm on to number 8, and number 8 is a big one, so I'm actually doing it in 6 parts. And number 8 is conflict resolution and empathy, and I'm on the 3rd part today, feeling very proud of myself. And of course, before I go into continuing on number 8, I want to remind you of those 10 characteristics of healthy marriage. And they are: 1, commitment; 2, fidelity; 3, acceptance of one another; 4, trust; 5, emotional intimacy, love and affection; 6, shared activities and friendship; 7, communication; 8, conflict resolution and empathy; 9, intentionality; and 10, a growth mindset. And in the last 2 Mondays, I would have shared on this same number 8, which is conflict resolution and empathy, and I shared on timeout, and I started looking at those 6 skills that were identified by Dr. John Gottman for constructive conflict management or conflict resolution. And those 6 skills that he discovered are: 1, soften startup; 2, accepting influence; 3, making effective repairs during conflict; 4, de-escalation; 5, calming down yourself; and 6, compromise. And I would have dealt with softening your startup and accepting influence last Monday. But I felt like I wanted to spend, even as I was going through my notes and thinking through and being kind of prayerful about it, because I feel what I share is very important. I really wanted to benefit people and have people understand what I'm sharing. So what I wanted to do today is to spend a little more time on accepting influence. And then I'll look at, hopefully finish the other 4 skills. And why I want to spend some more time on accepting influence, because studies have actually showed that accepting the influence of your spouse is critical to happiness in your marriage. So marriages where husbands and wives accept each other's influence, those marriages tend to be healthier, they tend to be happier, and their problem solving tends to be much, much more healthy, right? So what is accepting influence? So making sure that you understand, when I'm using that term, accepting influence, that you understand what I mean. Accepting influence means that you welcome and respect your partners, your spouse, your husband, your wife, their thoughts, ideas, and feelings. And in doing so, you use them to help you to make decisions that impact you and your relationship. So it is, when we talk about accepting influence, It means that I welcome. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your input. I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings on this issue. I respect your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings. I respect it. And I want to use it as we go forward in terms of making decisions. Now, this is very important for healthy marriages. So marriages where your spouse's views, opinions, feelings, ideas are not welcomed and respected, those marriages don't go well. And this is whether husband's views, opinions, feelings, thoughts are not welcomed and respected, or if it goes for the wife. When we're not doing that in our marriages, both of us are losing and the marriage is losing, right? So that's why I felt, Petreece, I need to share more on this. So why do some couples go from conflict, because we all have conflict, it is inevitable, back to closeness, while others grow apart? Being able to accept our partner's influence is key to getting along well. A common belief and hope are, if we do things my way, everything will be right. So if we only just do it how I say, everything will be okay. Or if she only does it how I say, everything will be okay. Right? It will be wonderful, right? When couples have a conflict, there is generally the desire or the urgency to get things right again. We feel disconnected, right? We feel that disconnect that conflict brings, and it feels uncomfortable. So, when you have conflicts as a couple, feeling that disconnect that comes with conflict really doesn't feel, it really doesn't feel good at all, right? And for some persons, according to the issues that they still are dealing with, they can actually feel abandoned and rejected when there's conflict, even when there's no actual abandonment or rejection happening in that situation. But they have these issues from before, so they feel abandoned, they feel rejected. They can't feel like that during conflict. As married couples, feeling connected is important. It is one of the feelings that help us to weather the storms as we feel like we're not in the situation alone. When there is conflict, one of us may go into a panic mode and try to restore calm and a feeling of connection as soon as possible. And in this urgency, to avoid feelings of disconnection, rejection, or abandonment, you can make angry demands for change. So I just want you to do what I want and everything will be okay because I just want everything to feel normal and healthy again, right? Or we demand some kind of agreement from our spouse. A lot of times this only causes our spouse to withdraw because he or she feels misunderstood, unheard, and controlled. The conflict seems like you win and I lose. And in a marriage, once one person is winning and one is losing, we both losing, right? Professional counselor Kristen Rosenthal says, true agreement is not something we can demand of a partner. Rather, listening to become more aware of our partner's inner state. And I'm going to share a little bit about this, right? Listen to become more aware of a partner's inner state and be influenced by it is essential to finding the compromises we need for genuine connection. A fact that we must remember is when you accept influence, again, what is accepting influence? That is when you welcome and respect your spouse's thoughts, ideas, feelings, opinions, and in doing so, you use them to help you make a decision that impacts you and your relationship, right? When we accept influence, it increases your problem-solving success. So that accepting influence is necessary to increase your problem-solving success. And this is studies. Studies have shown this. One behavior emerged as key to a couple's overall happiness. And what do you think it is? accepting influence, right? Particularly from men. So Gottman observed that more women entered, and this is not all women, this is more women, entered married life already able to tune into her husband's worldview and accept his influence. Men, he found, were generally less able to consider their wives' wants and wishes. And this is not all men. So we're not saying all women accept influence, because some women, they don't accept influence from their husband, and it makes the situation very difficult. And some men accept influence from their wives, right? So this, again, I'm not saying all men or all women. Men, he found, were generally less able to consider their wives' wants and wishes. These men more often found themselves in troubled marriages. Those who allowed influence, especially, so those who allowed influence, men and women, especially men who allowed a wife's influence, enjoyed happy, more secure, and more long-lasting relationships. It is really about a marriage being a partnership where God has provided a companion suitable for the man, so that they can both go forward, be fruitful, be multiplied, govern the earth, right? In this partnership of marriage, for us to be happy and to accomplish what God has for us, husbands must accept the influence of their wives, because remember, she is a suitable companion. The Bible says that, which means it's really important, men, that you choose suitable companions, because you want to be able to hear their views, their opinions, the intelligence that they bring. But also, wives must be able to accept the influence of their husbands, because he is also intelligent, right? Now, men and women are different in many ways. And many women find themselves better at tuning into others' feelings than their husbands. Some men feel like they just cannot keep up with women. How they express their thoughts, how they express their emotions, and they feel unequal in terms of verbal skills. So wait, now that woman could talk, she could explain, right? And so what do? They back off. This is an important difference to realize. It's both as a source of much frustration, but also an opportunity for progress. So when you are frustrated and finding fault with your spouse, it seems nearly impossible to open your mind to your spouse's point of view. One of you begins raising the volume of discontent or even raising your voice. The other increasingly shuts down, walks away, or gets defensive. One seems demanding and the other seems defensive. So this is what is happening even as we have in that conflict. This pattern of demanding and defensiveness needs to become your enemy, not your spouse. Your spouse is never your enemy, right? As stated earlier, we need to learn to become aware of your spouse's inner state and be influenced by it. It is essential to finding the way forward in many of our conflicts and to genuine disconnection. And this kind of speaks to what I would have shared with you all, and you could go back on the videos on YouTube about mirroring, validating, and empathizing. A very important part as couples when we have conversation is to be able to validate the thoughts. Okay, I can see how what you're sharing makes sense. It doesn't mean you necessarily agree or you agree with all of it or you agree at all, but I could see how this makes sense. If we are not willing to understand the inner state of our spouse, like what they're really thinking, how they're processing things, it would become very difficult to deal with our conflicts and to have genuine connection. So I did up an example, right? It is not real. So it's not a real example. This is not anything anybody has spoken to me about. So I could be a good playwright, I think. right? A woman heard her husband admiring a yard, saying that it looked beautiful. It had flowers and some simple landscaping. She decides that the front of their yard and her porch could benefit from some plants, some flowers, and some homemade landscaping. Landscaping she would do herself. She tells her husband that she wants to plant some plants in the front yard, to do a little landscaping, and to spruce up the porch with some flowers. She says to him, I don't want to do it by myself. I would like you to help me pick out the plants. He shows no interest, but she wants to do it as a couple. She begs him to come, and they go to the plant shop together. They begin looking at the different plants. He is getting overwhelmed. So the husband is getting overwhelmed. She asks for help from the shop assistant, hoping that as she starts up a conversation with him, her husband would get involved. He does not. And he feels like she's doing this yard project by herself, and her plans for them to do this together has backfired. She thanks the shop attendant and says that she has a better idea of what is available, and they leave the shop. They go home in stony silence without any plants, and then they have a big blowout over it after. Now, how can a couple go about this differently if they want to invite each other's influence? How can they go about it differently? Remember, I'm talking about understanding the inner world of your spouse. What can a couple do to give influence a chance? So let us start the scenario over. The wife starts by wanting to make a connection with her husband over the yard project, and he's indifferent. This disconnect could be an opening for influence. There is his lack of interest. Now, what sense does she make of his lack of interest? So what is she saying to herself about his seeming lack of interest? What even judgments she could be making, right? Now, of course, she could ignore it. She could dismiss it. She could express hurt over it. She could say, you just don't care about me. Or she could get curious with him about why it is not important to him. So, leaving all anger, hostility, or desire to hurt him back. So you're leaving all of that. We're not doing that. She is openly, genuinely curious and wants to know what is happening there. So this is important to me, she's saying. And I'm not sure how important it is for you. What part of this idea don't you like? So we're not going into that place of just assuming, right, and acting like your spouse just don't care about you or don't care about the family. He's never interested in anything I want. We're not going there. We're not jumping to those assumptions, right? By answering, so he's going to answer her, he's already accepting her influence to talk about it. And if she can listen to his answers, they are on their way to facing the issue alongside each other as a team. He may say that it's not high on his priority list right now, and that there are more pressing things for them to do with respect to the house. He pictures, and he's speaking the mess and the fuss and the too many trips to the plant shop, and all his Saturdays gone, and no time for them to relax together or for him to watch his sports, right? Well, of course, she sees it makes perfect sense that he does not want to change up the yard at this time, And it is not a sign that he does not care about her. She's understanding where he's coming from. Also, this could be another thing. He feels stupid about these things, and he does not want to expose his ignorance about what looks good. He may not even know what the trouble is. He may say, love, going to the shop and looking at all those plans and he had ideas. I just don't know what to do. I just feel overwhelmed by it. So she's understanding. His reluctance is not necessarily that he doesn't care, right? I just don't know what to do. Now, this is another area that we need to look at. Another area of concern may be that a cycle, and this is important, listeners and viewers, that a cycle of frustration may have formed over the years for this couple. So there's another reason in terms of what is happening in his mind why he may be acting like this. He may feel not appreciated. His ideas are never going to count. So in the past, he has made ideas, he's gave suggestions, and it didn't count. She is going to do what she wants anyway, right? And if he tries to chime in, if he tries to give his opinion, it's just going to go to that place where it's all wrong in her view. So there's a history why he isn't interested. There's a history of he has tried to give his input in things before, and it hasn't been appreciated. It's almost like it doesn't count, or even if he does, there's some criticism about it. So he is in a space now. I'm really not up for all of that. I don't want to do it. So it's this it could be 1, 2, and that, or even all of those things, right? Opening up and being able to share how one is feeling. So he's able to share what is happening on the inside without being judged is very, very important in marriage. If she thinks that her husband is indifferent or he just does not care about the family, that is going to be painful for her. And she would respond to him in a particular way, right? If he expects to be judged or dismissed, he would be hurt too. By both understanding how each person is reading the situation, they can dispel a lot of hurt and anger. Very important in conflict resolution. Don't just make assumptions that my spouse just doesn't care. Let it be a safe space that we could truly hear what is going on in the mind, the feelings, the heart of your spouse. Many couples operate without awareness of their spouse's thinking, with a lack of mutual influence, because this accepting influence has to be mutual. Both husbands and wives need to accept each other's influence if they have to have healthy conflict management and conflict resolution and problem solving. Both need to be doing this, right? Outcomes like the first scenario where they went home in stony silence and then had a big blowout about it after. Outcomes like that first scenario at the plant shop are more likely to play out when there is a lack of mutual influence, of mutual accepting each other's influence. We go home angry, disconnected, and empty-handed. They didn't come back with any plans. If one spouse can instigate curiosity, so let me, from not a place of judgment at all, try to find out what is my wife really feeling here. It's not that she doesn't care about me. She doesn't want to respect me. What is my husband really feeling here? It's not that he doesn't love me or he doesn't care. If one spouse can instigate curiosity, their mutual influence can open up many options in dealing with the situation, including one more likely to feel good, being more likely to feel good about even the solution that they come up with, feel good to both of them. As couples, we must accept the fact that we are different. Some differences we may not understand. We just accept them. We don't understand certain differences. It just is what it is. Many times, a couple will spend years trying to get their spouse to be somebody else. And trying to get your spouse to change and be somebody else is actually fighting in your marriage, right? We get angry and distressed over what we believe our spouse's behavior mean based on our own biases, our judgments, and our bringing. So something may mean something to you because of how you're brought up, and it means something totally different to another person. And that's why we have to get to what is going on inside there, right? And we react in anger rather than trying to understand the situation from our spouse's view. When we try to understand our spouse's viewpoint, when we stop trying to change them, we see so much resentment and frustration melt away. It makes forgiveness easier. There is greater appreciation for what each spouse brings to the relationship, and it makes accepting influence easier. Now, some problems are solved by just accepting the fact that we are different. And this is how we must operate because we are different. So, those, for example, you're going shopping with your wife, right? Because your wife needs new clothes. So we understand we're different. We're different there, right? She goes alone or she goes with someone else, and you look all excited as she shows you what she brought. And so when she gets back home, she shows you all the clothes she brought, and you, all excited, give her the compliment on her good taste, right? And both of you all feel good, and the day was good. And I'm sure you get the idea. There's some differences about men and women that we just accept, and we're able to see, okay, but this is what we need to do for both of us to be okay in this situation, right? Allowing your spouse's influence shows that you care about being a team. Wives allowing their husband's influence, husbands allowing their wives' influence. It says we are a team. You may not resolve every matter in the way you expected, and you surely would not be doing everything together, but you become clearer about what is truly important to both of you. One of the secrets to resolving conflicts is recognizing that you both want to feel connected to each other. Both husbands and wives want to feel connected to each other. It doesn't feel good to either husband or wife. And there's a good reason your spouse is feeling and behaving in a particular way. So one of the things you have to believe, my husband wants to feel connected to me. My wife wants to feel connected to me. And you have to also believe that there's a good reason my wife is behaving in this way, and there's a good reason my husband is behaving in this way. A lot of times when we're upset, we can only see our way, and it's only our way that makes sense. But we have to believe, no, he not mad. No, she not stupid. There's a reason they're behaving in this way. You don't just want to be disrespectful. They don't care about me. All right? And your spouse's perspective is necessary in charting the way forward out of conflict. So I hope as I went in a little more on accepting influence, that you're understanding that concept is very, very important for conflict resolution. Now, the third and fourth skills in constructive conflict management and resolution are to make effective repairs and to de-escalate. Now, here are a few phrases that you can use to get your message through. Now, these statements are useful when our discussion during conflict are going off track and we want to calm things down or de-escalate, or we want to get back on track, and that is make effective repairs. So de-escalating is calming things down, and getting back on track is making effective repairs because we're going off track. If they feel unnatural or forced, you could use language that feels more comfortable for you, right? So we could use I feel statements. So I am getting scared. So you're using statements with feelings in it. Please say that more gently. That felt like an insult. I don't feel like you're understanding me right now. So we're trying to de-escalate, we're trying to make effective repairs. We could use, I need to calm down statements. So I just need this to be calmer right now. Can I take that back? Because you realize, oh, so you want to calm. Can I take that back? I need your support right now, trying to calm down statements. Can we take a break? Those are calming down statements. You have sorry statements. Let me try that again. You know, you felt, no, I said it badly. That wasn't the right thing. Let me try that again. You even say, I'm sorry. I really messed up. That's a sorry statement. You know, I want to say this more gently, but I don't know how. So those are sorry statements. And then you have, I appreciate statements. Remember, we're talking about making effective repair and de-escalating. So I appreciate statements. I know that this is not your fault. Thank you for. I understand. I love you. Those are appreciate statements. I respect what you do. So. So these statements are useful when our discussions during conflict are going off track and we want to calm things down or de-escalate, or we want to get back on track, and that is make effective repairs. And sometimes we have to remember to take a time out, right? If you really need to calm down or you feel flooded with emotions, take a time out. If you feel that your conversation has become entirely derailed, totally off topic because we are upset, take a timeout. And I spoke about a timeout in as the first tool in terms of dealing with conflict, right? And what a timeout is not to ignore. A timeout is not to just say what you have to say and move on, right? If you feel that your spouse's emotional state or your own, so we're angry, is hampering the ability of the two of you to have constructive conversation, take a time out. And sometimes people might not just be angry, but they just overwhelmed with emotions. So are crying, and no, we need to take a time out. And remember, so go back and listen to what a timeout is. Timeout isn't avoidance. All right. And the fifth skill is constructive conflict management, conflict resolution is calming down yourself. The conversation is being driven by too many emotions, especially anger. So the only reasonable strategy is to let your partner know you're feeling, flooded and you need to take a break. Again, we might go back to a timeout, right? It is very important during this timeout to avoid self-righteous thoughts or thoughts that somehow you are the victim. We're not doing that. Focus on something else. Do not ruminate. Do not go over and over. Keep playing the situation over and over in your mind. Stop it. So what you could do instead, take some deep breaths. And I did a little video on that. If you go on my Facebook page, right? Some deep breaths in and out, right? Pray, listen to music, but don't keep going over and over. That will keep you feeling upset. Do something that helps you to calm down, right? And it's important for us to know what those things are. Sometimes visualizing. So I was telling a friend of mine, visualizing us sitting down on Maracas Beach and eating bacon shark. Just visualizing that. So instead of going the situation over and over, visualize that, and it helps me to calm down, right? The sixth skill in constructive conflict management, conflict resolution, right, is compromise. It is better to bend than to break. And this is just what Dr. Gottman, countless research studies have shown. Please know that if you do not feel safe emotionally or physically, there is no way for you to reach a state of compromise with your spouse. So we don't compromise when it comes to sin. We don't compromise when it comes to abuse and safety. Those are not situations for compromise. Those are situations for change. If your goal is to reach a state of compromise, you must first focus on yourself. Define your core needs in that problem. Do not relinquish anything that you feel is essential and understand that you both must be willing to accept influence from your spouse. So compromise never feels perfect at first, as everyone gains something and everyone loses something. The important thing is feeling understood, respected, and honored. So both of you, both you and your spouse, feel loved at the end, which makes it easier, to change. Now, while compromise is something that is done in most marriages, probably in all marriages, I am not, so me, Petreece, not so much. I don't believe that marriages where there's a lot of compromise, that they are healthy, right? So it's not something you want to be doing a lot. I believe that collaboration, which involves finding a solution that entirely satisfies the concerns of all the parties involved. And this is a skill that I try to teach, right? So marriage is about negotiation, what each person needs to flourish as human beings and what is healthy for the marriage. So sometimes this takes longer than compromise. So it means a lot of times looking at the situation from a different perspective. What is the need here? And what is the need of each person? And what is important to each person? And I wish probably I could try and share here. So let's say we need to buy a new car. And my husband wants a car that is quite expensive. Part of that being because it's very safe. My husband was an engineer, probably still is, and safety is a big deal for him. Me now, little cheapo, and I say, now we can't spend all that money. Let us get a particular car that's, not expensive, but of course the safety feature in that car is not there. And we can't agree. But then if I think about it, so we're not going to compromise and get a car in the middle that both of us don't want. So I think about it. I think about the fact of, okay, yes, this is going to cost more money, but who does most of the driving? So while I drive, my husband does most of the driving. Okay, so he'll be driving it the most. I don't want him driving in a car that he's not comfortable with, because that'll make him miserable. And how he shows up, right? While he's a very, calm, compassionate person, I don't want him to be miserable, right? So then what we do instead is I think about the fact that, but Petreece, he drives more. It's not like if we purchase this car, we wouldn't be able to pay our bills. It might be, things might be a little tight, but we've been there before. So then let's get the car that he wants, because he does most of the driving, right? And it will make him comfortable. And then, of course, it's safer. So you know what happened there? There was no compromise, There was a change in my mindset based on all the facts about the situation, based on my understanding of myself and him. So sometimes we have to move beyond compromise, and we have to be willing to think about yourself, think about your partner, and how this will impact the person. And therefore, I'm not compromising. I love this person, and I am willing to do this. And I both feel like we both win, because I have changed the way that I'm thinking. And I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. To collaborate, we need to know, understand, and accept each other, and be willing to learn what is healthy in marriage relationships. And with change mindsets, we can change our behavior, because we love each other and we want our spouses to feel loved, right? So On the next two sessions, I would be parts in terms of number 8, conflict resolution and empathy. I'll be focusing on empathy in the next two sessions, I think, right? Tiffany, turn it back over to you.
Thank you so very much, Petreece. All right, and of course, I always like to give the opportunity for us to take a call or two. 622-1981, 628-1981. So I'll open up the phone lines at this time. And in the meantime, I'll also check the WhatsApp to see if we have any messages there. 622-1981, 628-1981. So there's a question here, Petreece. All right, so but what if they are saying they care, but their actions says something else, so they can be confusing. Should time out have a limited time?
Yes, yes. So one, you want to be open. Of course, actions could look like something, but we need to know what is happening behind those actions. So you want to be able to say it without judgment. I really want to understand why you're doing this, and listen without judgment. Put yourself in the person's shoes. See it through his or her eyes to understand why is the person behaving like this. That is one. And the person who's asking the question needs to go back and listen to what I shared on timeout. Timeout is not about avoiding. Timeout has a time that both people must agree on, that this is how long timeout is. Early in my marriage, timeout for us would have been 2 hours, right? Where we one, you calm down, 2, you reflect on what is happening, and then we come back together and we talk through the issue in a more calm way with greater understanding of ourselves and our spouses, of ourselves, and me greater understanding of what was happening with Huey, right? So I hope I answered there, but there must be a willingness to truly understand why the person is behaving the way they're behaving. Sometimes the spouse feels judged. They feel like their opinion don't matter. The things I would have shared in this program.
All right. So thank you so very much, Petreece. 622-1981, 628-1981. We've got a couple of seconds left. If you call now, I will take your call. All right. But in the meantime, let me just share this WhatsApp number with you guys. It's only a WhatsApp number, right? And it's 329-7383, 329-7383. It's a WhatsApp number only for Petreece. You can send a WhatsApp and she will respond, all right? So it's almost 1 p.m. Petreece, I want to say thank you so very much once again. Of course, if I see any messages coming in there, I will share with you.
Sure, thank you
so very much once again for your labor. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Wonderful being here, and God's blessings.
All right, blessings to yourself and your family. Blessings to you, Huey. Blessings to you. All right, Petreece, until we meet again.
Sure, bye-bye. God bless
you.
Hi, I'm Petreece Cuffie, counselor and trainer, and one of my deepest desires is to see people experience the fulfillment and growth that comes through healthy relationships. We're wired for relationships, so tune in and join with me as I explore and discuss tools for healthy relationships every Monday, 12:15 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM.
Isaac 98.1 FM. Inspiring families.